Hi, my name is Christian White, and I'm doing the gender issues in a disaster. Women are affected greater than men in the case of a disaster, which is why we have more information about women than what we do about the men. Women are also made to look weak and dependent on men to the media. And then gender research is, like I said, more focused on women than men. Women in disasters. Women are affected greater due to their roles and responsibilities, basically meaning that they become the primary caretakers. Women have to provide childcare, the decisions about domestic assets, and then how do you use the relief aid that they receive. Women's health is also affected in a negative turn. Usually that's by the lack of health care provided to them, vulnerable reproductive and sexual health, and then sexual and domestic violence. Women also avoid the shelters to avoid a sexual assault, which is another thing that they're affected negatively by. They also have a heavier workload than what men do, and that's because they become responsible for children, sick, elderly, and then the material stuff, and then emotional workload as well. And then I included a couple like statistics. In 1991, 90% of deaths in the Bangladesh cyclone disaster were women rather than men. And then women's death in disasters are linked to economic and social rights as well. Women after a disaster, it's hard to pay attention to the gender specific because most of the research found is focused on like pre-disaster familial responsibilities and like how they prepare for such a event. Women get less in the recovery process as men receive more. That's basically like I said about the health care. Men receive more food and water, and then that can cause a nutritional deficiency if a woman is pregnant or breastfeeding because the men usually do get the food and water first. The activity that women do after the disaster is usually overlooked. They don't really pay attention to it as much because, like I said, they focus more on what happens prior to the disaster than what they do after. And then they're not really given credit for what they can do because they're also less mobile, which basically, because women are responsible for the children and the elderly and the sick and all of them, they become like the caregivers, so they can't really travel as much. And then what I found on the men was that they're less likely to prepare for the disaster than what a woman is. And then they're also less likely to be like at risk because of like their social standing, their race, or their age. And then due to like a heroic mentality is that's what puts them at risk compared to women, because they have like a search and rescue like attempt, their coping strategies, and then that usually, or well, that can lead to substance abuse. And then their pride and masculinity, they don't like to ask for help, which is what that basically means. So they usually don't. And then here are my sources. If you have any questions, just put them in the discussion board and then I'll do my best to answer. Other than that, I hope you guys have a good day. All right.